My name is Stephan Newman, and this is my podcast for advanced session recordings. The producer that I chose for the project is LP. LP was born and raised in Brooklyn. He was the son, or is the son, of a somewhat well-known jazz musician in New York. Had a pretty colorful life. He was expelled from 8 different middle schools and high schools collectively, and that kind of shows through his music, which I'll get to later on. But from there, he went to a university in New York and graduated with his audio engineering degree and moved forward from there. From graduating, he met up with a DJ and formed a collective group of a 5-piece rapper band called Company Flow under Raucous Records. And he also released some solo work under Raucous as well. In the early 90s, he broke away from Raucous and started his own label, originally called Def Jam, which was obviously a pretty bad idea for copyright reasons, but it switched to Definitive Jux from there, and he produced quite a few rappers that, not knowing at the time when I was listening to them that it was being produced and engineered from LP, but Aesop Rock, Cage, Cannibal Ox. He worked on a few remixes for Nine Inch Nails, remixes for TV on the Radio, not knowing who LP was at the time. I discovered LP probably early 2000s, and the way that I would describe LP's production style is aggressive, lo-fi, intellectual, and also silly. And sci-fi. A lot of his influences actually come from watching different interviews of him on YouTube. He takes his influences from like Philip K. Dick, George Orwell, makes a lot of references of that into his music. And he's interesting because he has had successful work put out into the commercial industry, but at the same time not letting go of his intellectual artistic integrity inside of his records. Definitive Jux was named, while it was still there, I'll get back to that in a second, but Definitive Jux was named one of the best labels to work for because he picked the artists that he liked. He would let them release the music that they wanted, and then he wouldn't put a lot of constraints creatively on the artists inside of his labels. And to me, a producer is somebody that has the ability to take a collective of subjective tastes and expectations and then turn that into an objective and viable product successfully. To me, that's what a producer is knowing, whether that's engineering, networking, or composing. It's just to understand how to convey your message to a million people to where they can understand it and they want to buy it, but at the same time it remains into your own artistic, subjective perspective. One quote from one of LP's videos is that, verbatim, obviously it's not a direct quote, but at the time, when I was 30, I realized that every person in the same room has had the same emotion that I've had, and how do I convey that into music and my own perspective? And to me, that's what a good artist in general does, as well as a producer. But from going back to the history of LP, he started his label. He released a few pretty well-received albums. I'll Sleep When You're Dead was one. Cancer for the Cure is another, and eventually the label went under hiatus and eventually discontinued so that LP could work on his solo work as well as his work with Killer Mike. And that kind of brings us more into the more commercial aspect of his success. So Killer Mike, and it's kind of a funny story, LP obviously produced for a lot of different people, but he really didn't want to work with another artist or rapper on an album together, because he just didn't want to deal with the headache, which, is understandable. But Killer Mike kept nagging him, and eventually they signed up to form an album called R.A.P. Music, Rap Music, which had really good success, and eventually they formed a duo called Run the Jewels. And Run the Jewels 3 and 2 charted number 1 on the top 100 billboards for hip-hop, I think for about a week, which is pretty good considering that LP doesn't fit the traditional mold in commercial music, which is kind of, I guess, hip-hop is kind of the Wild West in general in that sense. But anyway, so yeah, LP, I respect his ability to, his aggressive beats, his defiance kind of towards, not necessarily defiance, but just his attitude towards life, where he just does what he wants to do, and if people accept it, they accept it. If they don't, then he'll find another way to make his name. But anyway, my name is Stephan Newman, and I appreciate you guys for your time and for the class this month, and I'll see you guys soon.